Peace and love, everybody. I'm Royce Fletcher Thomason, back for another Sunday Hope and Healing session. Today is Sunday, April 2nd, 2023. Shout out to D on his 18th birthday today. And we're here as always to bring hope, healing, encouragement, and to really just overall support people in their well-being and individually, and hopefully to aid in the greater good of the planet. All right. And so we're here each Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. If you have anybody who you know who is experiencing physical pain, please send them a link or share. If you're watching on YouTube, please text them a link. If you're watching on Facebook, please share it from Facebook, because we're here and we're happy to help people experience something different than they may think that they have to experience. I can't tell you how many people I've encountered who were experiencing like physical pain, and were maybe told they had to learn to live with it, that this was going to be something they'd have to deal with for the rest of their lives, be on painkillers, which actually don't get rid of the pain. They just numb you to the awareness of the presence of the pain. And so we're happy to do that, as well as other things that people may have going on. And speaking of things going on, just want to let you all know that we've got our next Transcending the Matrix Level 1 class coming up. Curly Conscious King, greetings to you, my brother. Hope that you're doing well, and much abundant love, light, and blessings to your way as well, and to everybody else who's here. Feel free to just drop a hello in the chat. Let us know that you're here. We always like to acknowledge your presence when you come here. And this is something I want to say, very clearly. I am here each week offering a service because it's something that I've been blessed with. I know that there are a lot of people suffering with a lot of things, and over the last 20 something years, I've been blessed to help a lot of people experience a transformation as it relates to their health, as it relates to things that they have going on in their bodies, and even other life affairs. And so I really want to encourage you not to be bashful about raising your hand and saying, I could use some support. There's no shame in needing support, allowing yourself to receive that. A reality of life on planet Earth as human beings is that, as the poet said, none of us are an island unto ourselves, right? We're hardwired for a sense of connection. We, by nature, are interdependent. Now, we end up trying to be independent of other people. We end up in situations where we're codependent, but we're designed by nature to be interdependent, operating the best we can from a state of wholeness within ourselves and supporting others in their process. Now, another reality is that we've all accumulated stuff along the way. We've all missed the mark along the way. We've all made some mistakes and accumulated some baggage along the way. If you live long enough on this planet, you will do that. And the key is that we, support each other in our process of getting rid of that, being delivered from that, transforming, unpacking that stuff, and doing so, in the context of where you can find a safe space. We're happy to provide a safe space here for that to happen, a space where genuine, authentic healing can take place, where genuine, true transformation is something that can actually happen. And so we're very happy to do that. And so I definitely want to encourage you all not to be shy about let it be known that you can use some support. We do that right here during the live broadcast. That's actually why I started doing this back in 2020, during the COVID, the early portion of the COVID pandemic. It was April 2020 that we first started doing this live every week, and we're still doing this now and for the foreseeable future. So I'm putting that out there. Again, if you have somebody in your life who's struggling with anything, turn them on to what it is that we're doing. Even if they're catching it on a replay, listening to it in their sleep can still reap some benefits from the healing that takes place here. And I typically do some general healing at some point in the broadcast, even if there isn't anybody who's wanting something specifically to be addressed. But this is something I'm very, very passionate about. And I've seen so many people who are suffering with different things, and it's been such a blessing to me to be able to play a role in a person experiencing a transformation of that, or becoming freed of that problem or that issue or that pain or whatever the case was. So I'm putting that out there. And now that I've put that out there, I've told you where the water is. It's up to you whether or not you want to drink. So, our kind of topic for today that we're focusing on in the process of life on planet Earth, nothing stays the same. You know, the songwriter said everything must change, nothing stays the same. In the process of going through life, there are things that happen. We talked recently about dealing with loss on our broadcast, and that could be loss of a job, loss of a relationship, loss of a loved one in terms of them making their transition, loss of your health, whatever the case might be. That's a part of the experience of life on planet Earth, a very real part of our actual experience of life on planet Earth. And something else that's very real for us is change. Okay. And in a way, the two can go hand in hand. But a reality of life is that nothing is going to remain the same. We sometimes have an aversion to change. We like to dwell in the realm of what feels familiar to us, even if what feels familiar to us is profoundly unhealthy, right? Even if what seems familiar to us is profoundly unhealthy, we feel more comfortable, we feel more secure somehow in the presence of what's familiar to us. And things changing uh, tends to make us feel a little uncomfortable. A reality of life is that I heard a gentleman by the name of Ed Hubbard say that everything that you've ever wanted is one step outside of your comfort zone. And so we get comfortable with things unfolding as they're unfolding. They're in the brain in terms of neuroscience. They're these things called neural pathways. And what neural pathways essentially are is roads by which thoughts travel through our brains. And that's kind of a simplistic way of laying it out. And if you think of these roads, you think about a road that ends up being dug in. If you got, a whole bunch of grass and there's a lot of travel that takes place over that grass, there ends up becoming a pathway that's created there. I was watching this nature show the other day, and there was this path through the forest of where elephants had roamed. And you could see it was a very clear path. It was like the path had been carved out of where elephants had roamed. Trees were moved. There weren't trees in that. There were trees to the right, trees to the left. But essentially, the elephants had trampled over the trees. It spread things out, or created a pathway. And that was the easiest way to travel because the pathway had already been created. And similarly is how it is with us in terms of how our brains operate, how our thought processes operate. We get familiar with certain types of things. There's certain neural pathways that are created in our brains, certain roads that are well paved, and we find ourselves traveling down those roads that are already established. And if we sometimes veer out, that can feel uncomfortable to us because the road hasn't been paved there. All right. The road hasn't been paved there. So it may feel like more work taking this other route that we've never taken before. It doesn't feel familiar to us. It may not feel comfortable to us. But the reality is, at some point, certain roads that we've traveled down before just close. At some point, the topography of what's going on in our brain needs to change because life circumstances change. And a lot of times we want to resist those life circumstances that are changing, those changing life circumstances, but it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And so the question is, how do we navigate these different life changes that we end up experiencing? Because the default mechanism is to resist it most of the time. And we have a lot of elaborate ways that we go in trying to resist the change taking place a lot of times. And we're here today to help offer some support with that as we go through, whatever those life changes might be. And I'm not going to call anybody out on what your specific life changes might be, but well, maybe I will, because quite honestly, a lot of times we want to even, because it can feel so uncomfortable, sometimes we might not even acknowledge the things that are changing. I've had to find myself putting, effort to make sure I'm going to the gym. Again, this has been something that's been relatively recent because I've seen my body changing. I do not recognize the younger version of me does not recognize the version of my body that it is now, you know. And so, I'm working to change that, but yet I'm at the same time accepting that, okay, a reality is this body has been around 51 years, not 21 years, not 31 years, not 41 years, because it doesn't look like it did at any of those previous points. And so there are certain things that will need to be done, adjustments that will need to be made to navigate those changes and such. And so it is with all of us. So it is with all of us. The more revolutions around the sun we accumulate, the more things are going to change. And whether we're busy in ourselves, being distracted from whatever changes those are that are taking place in the world, in the greater world, in our own individual worlds, us turning a blind eye doesn't change the fact that it's happening. It doesn't change the fact that it's happening. I see, different things that are happening that they'll show up politically. And there are changes that are taking place, and people, may want to resist that and fight against those changes taking place in terms of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are changes that are taking place. Some people may want to resist that. In terms of technology, artificial intelligence, AI, there are a lot of changes that are happening with that. And people may want to resist that, but it's not stopping it from happening. It is inevitable. It is changing, whether you want that to happen or not. In terms of how it is that we experience relationships with the people in our lives, whether these are familial relationships, whether they're romantic relationships, whether platonic friendships, whether they're work relationships, for the most part, things don't really stay the same. They either get better or they get worse. And things come at a point where the status quo ends up being challenged, where it has to be addressed. And while we might feel comfortable with where things are or where things have been, the reality is that the tides are changing. And we've got to learn how to navigate those changes in as graceful of a manner as we possibly can. Hope to have the grace to be able to navigate these changes well, and rather than things going in a downward trajectory in our lives, things actually improve, right? So I just want to check in real quickly with everybody. In the words of Daryl McDaniels, how y'all feel out there? How's everybody doing? If you want to drop it in the chat, we certainly love to see that. And also, I never know who's here until you actually comment. Even if you're liking on Facebook or on YouTube, I can't see that as I'm broadcasting. So the only way for me to know who's here is if you just wave a quick hello or something like that. So we always appreciate that, and we like to acknowledge you. So as it relates to what our kind of focal point for today is, which is navigating inevitable life changes, we'll go ahead and get into some healing on that. Sherry, good to see you today, my sister. Hope that life is treating you well and that bountiful, bright blessings are unfolding for you today. Everybody else who's here today, glad to have you as well. And so as we're dealing with navigating, Terry Vassar, my brother, good to see you here today. Blessings to you, brother. That's an enlightened brother right there. I invite you all to check him out on Facebook. And Terry, if you don't mind, can you? I know you typically go live in the mornings. If you just drop in the chat when you do your lives, I like to check his lives out, and he comes and checks mine out, and we're on a similar frequency in terms of thought processes and what it is that we're wanting to do in the world in terms of bringing love, light, blessings, transformation, sense of empowerment, authentic empowerment on the planet. So let's go ahead and get into the actual healing process for in navigating those inevitable life changes. And you can catch Terry Vassar live on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays on Facebook at Terry Vassar. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 7:30 a.m. And I believe that's Eastern time, right? 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. If not, Terry, just add that to the comments as well. I'm pretty sure it's Eastern time. Yes, it is Eastern time. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get ready to get into some healing. I'm thankful that I get to be a blessing, that I get to be a vessel of healing, and that for the last 20 something years, people of many different walks of life, of many different backgrounds, nationalities, hailing from different parts of the world, have been able to I've been able to witness people's healing and their transformation of their life experience. I'm very humbled and thankful for that, and that God has found it fit for me to be a vessel of healing. I maintain that ultimately God is the healer. If God's not working, there's no healing that's happening. However, there are things that we can do to allow ourselves to be vessels of that healing. God is the healer. I'm a vessel. You can be a vessel. And I maintain love as the tool that we work with to bring that about, right? God is the healer. We're the vessels, and love is the tool. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I'm just gonna start with a brief prayer, and then we'll get into some of the actual healing work. You'll hear me saying things, but just me saying it isn't what actually makes it possible. Okay, reality is that almost all of the things in our lives that we think are the problem aren't actually the problem. There is a root. We're smelling the stench. We're seeing the fruit, but we don't necessarily understand what's at the root. Okay, and so we'll be getting into some of those things. And so whatever you hear me bringing up regarding what the situation is, I just want to invite you to invite the presence of the love of God into that space. as I say these different things that I'll be saying as we're working. All right. So God, I know you to be a healer. You are the healer. And there's nothing that is beyond your reach, beyond your ability to heal and transform. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to be the vessel of your healing and to demonstrate your healing on the behalf of, insert your own name here, neutralizing the causal root of all experiences of being stuck or all sense of resistance to inevitable life changes. From the point of the causal root and the entire energetic structure of every strand of DNA and every cell of our body and every string particle of our existence. And transmuting that into and replacing it with just being in a sense of divine flow and complete alignment with you and with your perfect will for our lives, and celebrating that, fully embracing it and celebrating that, walking in it with true grace. And I bear witness to our wholeness on this date and in this time and space called now. Thank you. Thank you, God, for this gift of your divine love. And Hashem Yeshua HaMashiach, I affirm it is done, it is done, it is done. All right, so let's get into it a little bit. So let's first of all look at proclivity for comfort chasing. Okay, the proclivity for comfort chasing. We as human beings, a lot of times we tend to move in the direction of what's comfortable and move away from the direction of what's uncomfortable. All right. So a lot of times we'll do things to keep ourselves from going through different challenges. A lot of the blessings that somebody in a Transcending the Matrix support session or a class, I don't recall which at the moment, mentioned how in this room that I'm broadcasting from, there's one door that opens in and there's one door that opens out. And in our life journey, there are so many blessings that are just on the other side of the door for us. There's a portal that we'll sometimes need to walk through to enter into the realm of our blessings, right? There are new blessings that are awaiting us that are just right on the other side of the door. And if we're going to experience those new level of blessings, we've got to be able to walk through that door. What the challenge is that sometimes there's what could be referred to as a dweller on the threshold. There's something standing in that doorway that causes us to resist pushing through and walking through that doorway. And that could show up as manifestations of fear. It could show up as anxiety. It could show up as uncertainty. It could show up as a lot of different things. But the reality is, until we push through that, whatever that is, and actually walk through the door, there's separation there's a distance between where we currently are and where our blessings are, or whatever those blessings might be that are actually awaiting us. So we've got to actually transcend that attachment or that proclivity to avoiding discomfort. Okay, and so want to kind of strengthen all of us to actually develop the intestinal fortitude, the grit, the determination, and even the enthusiasm. Because it doesn't always have to be something that we have to bemoan, but we can actually be approaching it enthusiastically. So actually enthusiastically challenging the fear-based thoughts that are chattering away in our minds, the subconscious mechanism that tends to lead us to self-sabotage. So let's look at that. Let's actually break down that self-sabotage thing, because that's coming up as a big issue. So in terms of the self-sabotage, let's look at um, a lot of times we self-sabotage in connection with a feeling of unworthiness. And notice I didn't say a thought of unworthiness. Most of the time, most people won't just tell you that they feel unworthy or that they think they're unworthy of whatever the good thing is that they're wanting to experience in their life. A lot of times it's stuff that's deeply subconscious, stuff that's been kind of programmed in your mind from negative life experiences that you've had. Sometimes not only from your own negative life experiences that you've had, but from the chatter that's come from other people based on whatever their negative experiences were. And so sometimes a person can have their own experience, and based on their fear, based on whatever their baggage and whatever their issues are, they may want to kind of project that stuff on you. And so we want to, can kind of refer to that as mental poisoning. It's not something that people do on purpose to sabotage you. It's just that they're operating from their own fear-based mindset based on whatever their own trauma or whatever their own challenges were that they weren't able to get past. And so we want to actually break that cycle, and transmute that mental poisoning. People usually are intending well. When the doctor tells you you're going to have to learn to live with that pain, that's a form of mental poisoning. They just don't know how to help you to become free of the pain. So they tell you that you'll have to learn to live with it, or telling you that, and even a prognosis, a medical prognosis, can fall into that category. I tell you a story real quickly. Um, there was a person who was in the hospital. They had been ill. The doctor shared with the family that this person actually had cancer. They said, whatever you do, do not tell them that they have cancer. Um, and so the doctor did not tell this patient that they were experiencing, that the cancer was taking over their body. And what ended up happening is this person ended up somehow developing a greater fight. They end up developing a zeal for life and a determination to get better. And they ended up getting better. They ended up experiencing a total recovery. And you know, this lady ended up saying, when I was sick and I was going through all of these things and seeing what some things that happened with some other family members who passed, I was certain that they said that they were certain that they had cancer. But then the lady said, but when you didn't tell me that I had cancer, I just developed this determination that I was going to get better. That I felt this hope, and that ended up manifesting as a sense of determination to get better, which is what ultimately ended up happening, right? Conversely, a lot of times a prognosis, you know, can be something that a person is taking in. They're internalizing that and then making that a part of their reality. And so we're going to look at mental poisoning from like all of these different sources that it may have come from. Okay. I just had a number that popped in my head. Whatever that number was, it was a big number. I don't recall what it was. Uh, we're going to address that from all these different forms of mental poisoning and all these different places that this type of mental poisoning might come from. It could be family members, it could be teachers, it could be the news, it could be just people that you respect. It could be family, friends, your support system. Okay, and so whatever those different avenues through which this mental poisoning has come, we want to kind of resolve and reconcile that as well. Okay. and also actually um, trying to kind of rewire and reprogram for naturally aligning with a sense of it being your birthright to be blessed, and therefore aligning within yourself the thoughts, words, and behavior that move in alignment with that. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And so let's look at this sense of unworthiness again. So there's still this sense of unworthiness that I feel we need to address some more. So let's look at sense of unworthiness in terms of um, religious indoctrination. All right. And again, there's a difference between feeling worthy and feeling entitled. I don't believe it's appropriate for us to feel entitled, to feel like anybody owes us anything. But I do believe it's important for us to feel worthy because an infinitely wise, infinite loving source of all existence, I call God. Sometimes I call Papa. Sometimes Daddy. Uh, Loves you, wants the absolute best for you. Okay. That makes you worthy of it. Doesn't make you aligned with it. In terms of whether you're aligned with it is kind of on you. Okay. So let's offer some more strength in terms of feeling worthy, and in terms of the feeling of unworthy. And this is a thing that goes back throughout human history in terms of this sense of unworthiness. And so let's look at your bloodline. Okay, your family lineage, as far as this sense of unworthiness that's been passed down from generation to generation, and the stories that are told, some of that sense of unworthiness can be conveyed. It may show up in the form of, limiting belief systems and words that are uttered as if casting spells with our words, creating unconscious curses with our words for future generations, for other people that we care about. And so we want to completely neutralize that, delete that from the point of the root cause, as well as all of the cumulative effects of that, and transmute that into and replace it with a sense of complete divine alignment with the truth of God resonating in your soul and within every cell of your body, getting down even into your bone marrow, okay, where it becomes an intricate part of your internal programming. See, the reality is that our minds are like computers, and they're going to be programmed. Them being programmed is inevitable. You can't control whether or not your mind is going to be programmed. In some ways, it's programmed from things that are external to you that you've taken in. In some ways, it's programmed by you, by things that you tell yourself, therefore, that you program in yourself, right? You can't control whether or not your mind is going to be programmed. You do have say in, however, in what the programming is. All right. And so we're going to upgrade the programming, going to install some virus software to get rid of and delete all of the mental viruses that might be taking place. All right. And all of that negativity, those self defeating belief systems. All right. And reprogram in or program in uh, alignment with the divine design that God had in mind when creating you. Okay. So let's look at resistance to that real quickly. Um, Actually, I don't need to focus on that so much. I think what I need to more so focus on is negative belief systems about what it means to be in alignment with God. I'm telling you, we're a piece of work, people. We really are. And so sometimes we can have the idea that being in divine alignment, being in alignment with God's call and purpose for our life is somehow going to take away from our quality of life. That we'll somehow be losing something, that will be that end up dealing with FOMO, fear of missing out, that we'll miss out on something, that we won't be one of the cool kids. The other folks are having all the fun. Okay, we want to kind of transform that belief system into awareness that your greatest joy, your greatest blessing, your greatest sense of fulfillment is being aligned with the perfect plan that God has for your life. All right. I want to strengthen that. Okay. And open up avenues for life experiences that further enhance that, that further embody that, and that support that line of thinking and operating, right? Okay. All righty. Now, I want to look at too, just in general. Remember, our ultimate thing that we're focusing on is navigating inevitable life changes. So I want to focus on, that's a big thing, on fear. Fear we refer to as false evidence appearing real. Okay. And one fear that really want to focus on right now is fear that if this change takes place, that you won't be okay. All right. That you somehow won't be okay. And we want to delete that thinking, transmute it into the awareness of, yes, things are changing. Embrace, yes, things are changing. And in the midst of the change, I'm covered. In the midst of the change, it's handled. In the midst of the change, new blessings are unfolding. Okay. All right. So let me deal with real quickly also um, clicking on the all clear signal in the brain in terms of changes taking place. All right. And actually becoming learning to embrace change and actually feel enthusiastic about it. Okay. Particularly as it relates to um, particularly as it relates to developing a growth mindset. Okay. So there can be a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. A fixed mindset essentially wants to keep things where they are. A growth mindset is geared towards whatever changes need to take place for the growth to actually happen. And a lot of times, the place where growth actually happens, the avenue through which growth frequently happens, is in some form of change or some form of challenge, right? And so, as we navigate the change, or as we uh, make our way through whatever that challenge might be, that's where the growth ends up taking place. That's when we're actually addressing the dweller on the threshold that's standing in the doorway between where we currently are and the blessings that are on the other side of that door. And so it requires us to build up our spiritual muscles. And so, this is an exercise that we're actually engaging in that actually help to build and strengthen our spiritual muscles. All right. And so, when I look at aversion to aversion to exercise, aversion to exercising our spiritual muscles, and want to reprogramming that to it actually feeling very fulfilling, feeling good doing it, and feeling good once it's done. Okay. All right. And and to experience the sense of fulfillment for seeing the results, right? Seeing the results, and then uh, developing those life affirming habits, those habits that actually uh, tend to support your growth, tend to support your well-being, tend to support your ability to expand in favorable ways. All right, to see your blessings increase more bountifully. Okay, although the blessings may look different, the blessings of tomorrow may look different than the blessings of yesterday. All right, but embracing the blessings that are available in the present, whatever those blessings that God intends are. All right. So I want to look real quickly at fear of fear of the dark. Fear of the dark kind of goes hand in hand with fear of the unknown. A lot of times we resist something if we don't know how it's unfamiliar. We don't know how it's going to unfold. Uh, but let's actually replace that, reprogram for joyfully walking in faith. Joyfully walking in faith. Faith isn't faith until you can't see how it's going to happen. If you can see how it's going to happen, it's not faith at that point. Okay. I remember many, 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 many moons ago hearing my pastor at the time say um, that it's better to walk blind, holding onto God's hand, than to walk alone, seeing where it is that you're walking. Right. And so, uh, want to strengthen, uh, let's strengthen our faith muscle. Actually, let me specify that. Let's strengthen our faith in everything unfolding well muscle. Faith in the fact that God has you covered muscle. Because we all have faith. We've all been given a measure of faith. It's just what we put our faith in. Sometimes we put our faith in, say faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Um, you know, we have a lot of stuff that we believe and are even certain will happen that haven't happened yet. You know, a lot of times we have a lot of confidence that the bottom is just going to completely fall out, and we put energy into that. Guess what? Energy follows consciousness. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. The things that you're thinking about and that you're giving energy to, you end up a lot of times unconsciously setting yourself up to experience a self-fulfilled prophecy, whatever it is that might be, right? the things that you're speaking out of your mouth, you know. So I say, don't put anything behind the words I am that you don't want to manifest in your life experience, that you don't want to have as part of your life experience, right? Only speak those things that will be blessings for you. Okay. If you're feeling sick, don't put an I am before that. Maybe an I feel or I'm dealing with, right? Uh, but not making that a statement of your identity. All right. So let's with that said, um, let's kind of program in some I am isms, some statements of being. Um, I am well, I am protected, I am safe, I am secure, I am covered, I am given the grace to navigate these changes successfully and effectively. I am entering into a realm of new blessings. I am embracing the changes that are currently taking place. The reality is there's some things that you just can't change. And those are the changes that we're talking about. There are some areas where you can create change, where you can effect positive change in your life on purpose. But there are other things that are beyond your control. They're beyond your control. And so let's program in the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that are ours to change, and the wisdom to discern the difference. Lord have mercy. Woo, boy. Feel my help coming on that one. Okay, so let's look real quickly too at Bruce Lee's coming to my mind right now. And I hear Bruce Lee saying, be like water. Be like water. You know, you look at the nature of water. The nature of water is to flow. There's this canal that, you know, is a couple hundred yards from where I'm sitting right now. And the water just flows through there. It's the nature of water to flow. Sometimes, however, we end up getting stuck. And so, if the nature of water is to flow, and 75% of our bodies are water, which is roughly about the same as the surface of the earth, right? About three-quarters of the surface of the earth is water. Then it is our nature to operate in a flow. It's our nature to be in a flow. Okay. Sometimes we want to dam up our emotions. Sometimes um, we want to resist whatever changes are taking place within us or around us. And sometimes we have no control over that and we resist it. And what ends up happening is we get beaten up in the process of that because life is moving, but we're not moving with it, or we're moving against the flow of life, right? And so when I look at and a lot of times we resist the flow. We want to, you know, dig into where things are, where things have always been, because in a way that can feel secure. It's what we're used to. Even if we don't feel thrilled about some of the things that are going on, for things to change, ooh, that can be scary. Prior to April of 2019, I was working with an organization. It was so toxic being there. I literally would take a banana to the place, and within an hour, the banana would be completely brown. It was physically and mentally just a toxic place to be. And I knew that it was important, it was going to be important for me to leave that place. I was resisting leaving there because it was guaranteed money that was coming in. And so there was a sense of security that it seemed to bring. Although, wasn't really feeling value where I was. Actually, my presence there got a lot of other people promoted. I didn't get to see that though. I didn't get to experience that. So, really, people were benefiting from my presence there, but I wasn't being rewarded for it. Um, it was, and again, it was just overall a very toxic environment. And I was feeling led to move on from there, but it took a while before I did, because as toxic as it was, I remember the first time I went in the building, it was physically painful to my body. I the the environment, it wasn't feeling right. I wasn't vibing with it at all. But I still ended up taking that job there and stayed for a lot longer than I probably should have. And uh, because as unpleasant as it was, it felt comfortable. It felt familiar. There was some sense of security, as odd as that was, that came with it. And when I finally got to the point of leaving, when I finally got to, there was, the reality is there was never going to be a good time to leave. There was, when changes take place, especially when we need to make changes, there's never like a good time to do it for the most part, right? It's not ever going to feel comfortable. If we wait until something feels comfortable to make important life changes that we need to make for our own well being, a lot of times we're never going to make it if we're waiting for the time to feel comfortable for us to do it. And when I finally did get to the point where I chose to do it, it felt extremely uncomfortable then. But guess what? I have not looked back. I have not looked back, and I'm so much better off. I'm so much better off. And so I'm sharing this story because I want to encourage you to recognize that where you're maybe wanting to do, that there's a change that needs to take place, but you feel maybe resistance to allowing that change to take place in order to allow whatever the new blessing that it is that God wants to bring into your life to unfold for you. Okay. I shared with you what this personal experience for me was. Another one was moving from Texas to Florida. You know, I'm glad that I did that. It was the right move. I came to experience, but prior to that, there had been resistance to it, and so I know that there's some areas in your life where there might be something that might be kind of knocking at the door of your heart for a change that you might need to make. Maybe that change is to make a commitment that you've been resistant to making. Maybe a commitment to your health, maybe a commitment to your spiritual growth, development, and unfoldment. Maybe a commitment to a project that you know is going to take work to do. Maybe a commitment to uh, to going out and finding a line of work that'll actually be more suitable for you. Maybe a commitment to a relationship. Maybe a commitment um, to actually leave a commitment to yourself to leave a situation that you know isn't healthy for you or isn't good for you, right? And so I want to just share with you that no matter what life has felt like at different points, God has never left you alone. God has never left you alone, even in the darkest moments of your life. God, and especially, in fact, in the darkest moments of your life, God hadn't left you alone. God was maybe there carrying you through that difficulty. But God didn't leave you alone, and God's not going to leave you alone as you face whatever the challenge is that you need to face. When you make whatever change it is that you might need to make, when you take that step that you may be fearful of taking, know that God's got you. God's got you. I mentioned faith earlier. I read something decades ago that faith is when you've come to the edge of all the light that you know, knowing that one of two things will happen. Either you'll be given something solid to stand for, something solid to stand on or to walk on, or you'll be taught how to fly, right? We don't necessarily know how it is that things are going to unfold, but it's important that we know that they're going to unfold for our betterment, for our well-being, for our good. I'm here to tell you today, beloved, that there is good that is unfolding for you. There's good that's waiting for you. There are blessings that are waiting on you. There are blessings in your future that are right now are looking at their clock, looking at their wristwatch, looking at their phone, checking the times. When are they going to come and get this? When are they going to come claim me? Right? There are blessings that are looking out for you. Like I'm looking out the window right now. Where is he? Where is she? Are you coming? I'm here waiting for you. Are you coming? You just have to walk through the door. And guess what? When you walk through the door, there are going to be some good blessings on the other side of it for you. And so, as we get ready to close today, I want to just do a couple other little quick corrections. And that is to be able to envision the fulfillment of your blessings as you navigate the changes. And sometimes you don't always even know what changes need to take place. And that can be a little bit of a challenge, and that's okay. But knowing that you're going to be okay, no matter what the changes are, is very important. It's imperative. All right. Okay. And also let's strengthen us for us all to be able um, to have a faith in God mindset. A faith in God mindset that tells us that every step we take, God's got us. And if we're truly listening with an open mind and open heart to what it is that God's saying, independent of what our own ego's will is, because guess what? Your ego doesn't want to lead you in the direction of your greatest blessings, because your ego is the part of you that's trying to edge God out. Okay. And you've got to face that's what's really that dweller on the threshold. That part of you that's trying to edge God out, that's trying to keep you from walking in the direction of your blessings or walking through the door of which your blessings are on the other side, right? But guess what? You're holding on to God's hand, so to speak. You trusting, listening with a genuine and pure heart to where it is that God is leading and directing you. You developing the intestinal fortitude to face and challenge your own ego. That part of you that wants to keep you locked in to where you've always been, that hasn't really been working out necessarily the best for you, right? All right. And to be able to actually, even in the present moment, being able to see yourself and even get emotionally involved with the version of yourself that's experiencing the blessing already, right? Although it may be at some point in the future, and may not know exactly what the blessing is. You don't have to know how things are all going to fall out. You don't necessarily have to know um, what all the different twists and turns will be or how everything's going to play out. However, what you do need to know is that ultimately the finish line is you being happy, fulfilled, and bountifully blessed, right? And so being able to see yourself in that state of being happy, see yourself in that state of being fulfilled, see your state self in that state of victory, where you have the sense of fulfillment of overcoming what it was that you were afraid of taking that step of uh, making that leap of faith that you needed to take to get to where it is that you really want to ultimately be anyway, right? And so in this spirit, God, thank you so much for all of the blessings that you've allowed to unfold on today and those blessings that are yet unfolding. Help us to see clearly, God, beyond the matrix of illusions, of fear, that false evidence that appears real, and help us to see through the eyes of faith of you having us covered, you walking us through that door into the dwelling space of our blessings, and allow us to be able to tap in more fluidly and more fully with the joy and the peace and the sense of empowerment and the gratitude. Oh my goodness, the deep sense of gratitude of that profound fulfillment unfolding in the way that it needed to happen, that serves our highest and best good and the highest and best good of everybody involved. Thank you, God, for these and all of the other blessings that you so graciously bestow upon us in our lives as a function of your grace. For these we give great thanks. Ashe and amen. All righty, all righty. Curly Conscious King says, this was a needed message, much appreciated. Ashe, ashe. Most certainly. Sherry says, she's going where God's taking her. Feeling some fear, but doing it anyway. Yes, yes. God's got you, Sherry. It's a done deal. It's a done deal. Melanie Ivy. Hey, Melanie. I didn't know that you were here with us today. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Listen, folks, the blessings are there. They're waiting. That's right. It's a done deal. The blessings are there. They're waiting for us. There is no amount of good that you want for yourself that even comes close to the amount of good that God wants for you. It doesn't even come close because what your thoughts are based upon your limited perspectives. God sees the whole picture, the whole kit and caboodle, baby. And God wants your good for you more even than you think that you want it for you. And so it's just a matter of lining up with that, lining up with that. And if there are changes taking place in your life, those changes are not meant to destroy you. There are changes taking place in your life that some people might mean for evil. There are things that may be done by other people. There may be doors that you're seeing that aren't opening, but that's okay. You can knock all day long if that's not the door for you. then you don't really want it to happen. Thank God for the closed doors, and thank God for the open doors that even though you don't necessarily know how that particular thing is going to unfold, it may require you maybe placing your pride aside a little bit. It may require, you making maybe some changes in your life within your own self, addressing your own character, developing your own character, building some spiritual muscles. That's going to lead to the blessing that will be utterly transcendent. That'll take you beyond. A lot of times we don't even know what we want. We know what we think we want. How many times have you prayed for something and then you got it and you prayed for God to take it away? Right? Let our prayer be to be in alignment. That's what we've been ultimately focusing on today as we've been dealing with navigating inevitable life changes. Um, you've been there, Melanie. Prayed for something and then you got it and prayed for God to take it away. I think we all have in one way or another. We had a thing that we thought that we wanted, and then we got it like, what the heck is this? I know I have been there. Let's just line up with whatever it is that God wants for us. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There have been many people who desperately wanted fortune and fame and ended up becoming their ruin. All the things that we think we want, the reason that we want it is because we think we'll somehow be happier having that, whatever that is. And a reality is that um, joy is really an internal thing. It's not something that's based so much off of the whatever the external circumstances are, but it's based on a certain level of alignment that operates within us. And then sometimes when we're operating in alignment with that which it is that God has for us, and we're tapped in to that sense of joy, which is actually something that will empower and strengthen us. The joy of the Lord is my strength. It's something that will empower and strengthen us. Then we find ourselves actually moving in the direction of where our blessings actually are. And we find that we've been guided, even though we might not have necessarily recognized it. I'm telling you, it's not my plan to loan the person who was my girlfriend at the time my laptop and then it broke in her possession. That wasn't my plan. But guess what? If that hadn't happened, you wouldn't be looking at me here today. The thousands of people all across the United States, throughout Canada, Mexico, in South America, Europe, and Africa would not have experienced the blessings of the healing that's come forth that I've been able to participate in if that had not happened, because that was what precluded it taking place. That was what led me to be where I was, to be at the time in the space that I needed to be where it is that I am now. And there have been a whole bunch of things in your life that you didn't want to happen, or that you didn't think that you wanted to happen. But if they had not happened the way that they did, or had they happened differently than the way that they actually did, there was a level of good, there was a level of blessing that wouldn't have unfolded for you had that not happened that way. All right, I feel like I'm about to go get into preaching. I'm about to start telling the story of Joseph and his brothers and how he ended up being second in charge in Egypt and all of this other stuff. But I don't want to be going for 2 hours today. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up now. For anybody who's interested in transcending the matrix, Melanie, I want to encourage you to take advantage of transcending the matrix training. I feel like you would thoroughly enjoy it and thoroughly benefit from it. I'm just putting that out there. We have training this available. If it's something that you're interested in, reach out to me. You can send me a direct message at Royce Fletcher Thomason on either Facebook or on Instagram. A reminder, you can always find us on Facebook at Royce Fletcher Thomason. You can find us on YouTube at Matrix Healing. I think I'm going to create actually a new YouTube channel. We're going to start putting out a little more content that's more little quick pieces in addition to just the full like hour, or as we are today, hour and well, about an hour and 15 minutes we've been going today. So we're going to be putting out some content. There'll be, shorter pieces that you can just kind of have in bite-sized morsels that you can take and chew on during the day or during the week, that can give you some energy and some strength in your journey. Anyway, I'm Royce Fletcher Thomason. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And as always, I send you forth with peace and love. Catch you next time.